Everyone, and happy first day of Battleathon. I am so excited. Battleathon has been a long time in the making, and I am so thrilled to finally be starting on September 1st. So I want to tell you guys, I think I already have maybe in this intro clip to this vlog, but basically I'm going to be reading the bonding prompt for every dragon because I am a golden dragon and I need to make sure that I can rule all of my dragons appropriately. So I will be doing all of the bonding prompts for all of the different dragons, and I think I'm going to start with the red dragon because I do have an audiobook for this one, and that's War. I mean, what better book to read for the red dragons, the ruthless, the cunning, the battle prompt than War? This is a fantasy romance following the four horsemen of the apocalypse and the women that they make theirs, or the women that are hopefully going to help save the world from their terror, I guess is a good way to put it. And I liked the first one, Pestilence, but I didn't really like Pestilence. It was okay, but I think it was like a high 2, low 3 star. Like, it was fine, but it just wasn't great. So I'm really hoping that I like War a little bit better than that. I'm obviously not going to be reading this as I'm driving down the road, but I did bring it in here because I wanted to show you guys instead of having to pop up the picture like I normally do. So I'm gonna go. I've got to go to work for a half day, and then we are going to kick off sprints. Cassidy's going to kick them off at noon. I'm gonna take over when I get home, and we're gonna try to go for 12 hours today. So we'll see how much I can get read. I hope you guys are having a great Battleathon so far, and let's go. Oh, what a day it has been so far. I checked in with you guys this morning and told you that I was going to be reading War by Laura Thalassa. It is up there. I am too lazy to go get it, to kick off for the red team for Battleathon. And I am wearing my shirt. I'm very excited about this. You can still order those, and I'll link all of that down in the description if you guys want to grab a shirt. At the time of filming this, there are still bookmarks too, but again, all of that is down in the description box. But let's talk about War. I've started this and kind of gotten just briefly into it. I listened to it on the way to and from work, and I'm wanting to love this because I like Laura Thalassa's writing style. I like her ideas, and I did like the Bargainer series and Bewitched. I thought that they were both good. I think they were at least 3-star reads for me. But this story, while very interesting in its idea, I don't know is going to work for me in execution. I read Pestilence. It was generally fine, and I was told to continue in the series because Pestilence is kind of a whiny character, and it's definitely across the board the consensus is that's the weakest one of the series. And so I was told to continue because I would probably like the ones further more. And it's not that it's a bad book, but I just don't think that this particular type of story works for me super well anymore. We open up with War destroying everything, and our main character is obviously running from War, and her whole family has been killed. But within the first 3 pages, she meets War and he calls her his wife, and then she is in his camp. And it just was way too fast of a setup for me personally. Even in my fantasy romance, I do really want you to give me some more of that fantasy. Like, set the stage, set the world. Don't introduce the main love interest and have him call her his wife within the first 3 pages. It just moves too quickly. Not only that, but why is he calling her his wife? Like, they've never met before. She absolutely despises him. He just lays eyes on her and's like, yep, you're my wife. And she can suddenly understand everything he says, even when he's speaking in tongues. And I'm like, okay, but why though? Because that just is not going to work for me. You can't tell me he's a horseman of God, and because God willed it, she's his wife. Why? Give me something, some more substance than that to it. And so I'm really kind of hung up on that, to be honest, a little bit, because I just don't like it. And I'm hoping that this would be a enemies to lovers kind of situation where she freaking despises him for most of the beginning and he tolerates her, but instead I think that he's like all in and is treating her in a very different way than he treats other people because he's all in, which again makes no sense to me. He's War. He should want to kill everyone and want everyone to be at war. And she hates him, but you can see the softening even in the first like 10%. And I just wanted I want that a little bit more drawn out. I want the drama and the angst and the banter to be more prominent in my enemies to lovers. And instead it feels more like dislike to lovers. But he's a freaking horseman. Like, it should be enemies to lovers. So the setup is not my favorite. And she just is too easily influencing him when he's got a mission from God. He should be less easily influenced. I don't know. I'm still going to continue reading it because, again, everyone's told me to continue because they think that I'll like this next one better. So I have fingers crossed, but the initial impression is just unfortunately not my favorite right now. Hello friends, I just wanted to show you that I have got a helper today. This is David's dog, so this is Willie. Willie, say hi. Say hi. And Willie is staying with me for a couple of days until David gets back from a vacation, and he's not happy about it. He's adorable, but he is very much so attached to David. And so every time like I let him out of his room or I come to get him, he immediately bolts for the door trying to find him, which is sweet. But I'm just like, come on, dude, what am I, chopped liver? But he's not a big fan of the thunderstorm. So if you're wondering why I've not been getting a lot of reading done, it's because I currently have extra help doing pretty much anything this week. It is a little bit later. I am currently on kickoff sprints with Lexi and Cassidy. We are going to be going for a hot minute. We're doing sprints until midnight my time, and they started at 12 my time. So definitely a long day, but I'm excited. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and we're going to have a lot of sprints throughout the readathon. So if you are looking for sprints, you'll be able to find them around Battleathon. But I wanted to tell you guys that I am currently on chapter 38, which is about here. So I'm like 60% of the way through this, and I don't really have a lot more to say about it than I did before. I still don't really love it. I think that the relationship is just way too fast and unbelievable for me in this particular setup. And this book is almost all romance, not a lot of plot. He's just moving from city to city pillaging, and she's trying to make him a better person, but he's freaking war. So I'm like, I would like it better almost if she would accept him for who he is rather than the other way around, because he's freaking war. But anyway, I don't know. The relationship is the almost whole focus of this. And I like war. I like their relationship, but I need more than that, I think, to keep me really hooked. This book feels way too long. Like, it is literally 484 pages, and there's no reason for a book that is purely romance to be 484 pages. It needs to have a lot more plot in it, or heck, a lot more banter, and they need to like take a little longer to get together if it's gonna be that long. So I'm getting bored because it's the same repetitive conversations over and over and over again. I don't know what the third act breakup is gonna be, but they basically spend most of the book arguing, but again, it's the same arguments. And so I just struggling a little bit with that because I'm like, please, something needs to happen. But I also don't dislike the book. Like, it's well written. I can definitely see why people like this. I just think that it may not be a book for my particular fantasy romance reading taste. So I'm gonna go back to sprints. We only have like 2.5 minutes left of this particular sprint, and I saw a text message come through, so I need to answer that really quickly. But once I'm finished with that one, I'll check back in with you guys, and we'll be the first book down for Battleathon. All right, so I just wanted to show you guys my new coffee station that I got. Ignore how many syrups I have. I have a lot of syrups, but I'm glad to finally have everything all in one place. But it is now time for a Mike morning kind of coffee. Good morning, friends. It is day 2 of Battleathon. It's Saturday morning, and we are currently on sprints. I am so tired, but slowly making it. I feel like even though I slept really well last night, when you've been on sprints for 12 hours and you do nothing but talk, it's just, oh, it's exhausting, but I'm excited for a new day. I'm thinking about doing a Barnes & Noble run today, and also going to, if I can leave in time, they close at 2, so I might not make it. I wanted to try our new coffee shop because they've got several of their new fall flavors out, so I was excited to do that. I need to pick up coffee pods from Target, so all of that's not super exciting. After I get kind of all of my errands run, if I go to Barnes & Noble, obviously I'll take you guys with me. They're doing the triple stamps. That's the only reason I would be going. Is because of the triple stamps, but I don't really need anything, so we'll see. But anyway, I do want to tell you guys that I am 60% into war, and Because this is the first week and we're not getting points for star rating or less points for DNFing, I feel like the red team will be okay with me for putting this book down because it's just not my type of fanro. I really wanted to like it because I like Laura Thalassa's writing quite a lot and I've enjoyed her other series before. This one is just way more romance heavy, like the relationship heavy, than a lot of her other books. It doesn't have a whole lot of plot to it, and that's how I prefer my fanro to be, is to have like 40% plot, 60% romance at least, maybe even 50-50 or the other way around. Preferably, honestly, it would probably be like 60% plot, 40% romance. But anyway, this one is just pretty much all romance, no plot. And I'm struggling to pick it up because of that. I think if you're the type of reader that you want a interesting world and backdrop for your romance, but you much prefer to know about the relationship and them getting together and the struggles that they'll go through and smutty scenes, that this would work much better for you than it does for me. There are definitely some smutty scenes in here, but I wouldn't say it goes 0 to 100 in that regard. So I did appreciate that quite a lot. But because it's the first week, I'm not going to get any less points for DNFing it. I am over halfway and well over 100 pages. I'm 293 pages into this book. I think I'm going to put it down for right now. If I get to the end of the week and I'm done with everything and I just need another book to kind of fill out the week, I would finish this. It's not like I'm hating my life and I absolutely need to DNF it. I just have so many books that I want to read for this readathon that I don't really have time to sit here and go, I don't want to pick that up, so I'm going to do 50,000 other things. You guys know what I mean. You've been there. So I am going to put this one down. Team Red will be getting their 10 points for the bonding prompt for this one because this is obviously a conflict. It's literally called war. And then they will also be getting an extra 10 points because this is a backlist book. It was published in 2019, which is definitely more than 2 years ago. So they will be getting 20 points out of this book for me. And I'm going to be moving on to something else. I think I'm going to be reading for the green team next, and I'm going to do Combat Codes by Alexander Darwin. Cassidy recently read this one, really enjoyed it. I've heard a lot of good things. I think it's a very fast-paced, plot-driven story, which I feel like is what I need right now to really grab my attention and keep me engaged and wanting to pick up books. So I'm going to start this one. I'm also reading this with my Patreon. We've got a buddy Discord chat for it, and a lot of other people have already picked it up, so I want to make sure that I am able to have that conversation with everybody while they're reading it. So I think this is going to be my next read. I do have the audiobook for this one as well, so I will let you guys know if it's good. So I want to quickly give you my first impressions on the Combat Codes by Alexander Darwin. This one is about a young boy who is taken from his home and ends up as a slave in a fighting ring, and he surpasses everyone's expectations despite how small he is. And Murray, who was once a famed knight, has been trying to find the next champion, and it sounds like there's going to be these types of spirits and lights that can do different things to people, and I'm curious to see how this is going to shape up. I'm liking the writing style so far. I think that the setup has been good. I do think that Seago, it reads a little bit older than he actually is. I think he's only supposed to be like 11 or 13, but he seems wise beyond his years, which is a little bit distracting. And I do wish that we had a little bit more world building in this setup because I'm 75 pages in and I don't really understand what is going on in the world and why these men are in a fighting ring, why Murray is looking for the next champion, like what the combat codes are. I do wish that we were introduced to that a little bit sooner because I just feel kind of like what's the point right now, but I'm also very intrigued by the writing style. I know that we will get that world building eventually, so I am excited to continue this one, but I just want to give you guys kind of my first thoughts first thing this morning before I read any more today.
Triple A, credits are right. Hang up the phone and let your heart break. Only in LA, 24 twice. She's on the phone, but she's staying on Wilshire Boulevard. Old dreams dying hard. You want you to return this love. Breathing in the dark, weightless, working hard. We want you to return his love. Now he's beating diamonds on you, but that ain't enough to turn the pain. He's kneeling, wants to feel known, but he's
think it's Wednesday. Wednesday feels about right. This whole week having a holiday has just thrown me completely off, but I believe it is Wednesday now. And I am about 60-ish% into the combat codes, so I did want to give you guys a quick update on that. I am really liking where we're at the moment. We've now gotten to the more school setting, which, as you guys know, I am reading this for the Green Dragons, and that is to read a book with a school setting. Like the school setting part, I really like that they are having like challenges and how those are working and the dynamics between the groups and the friends and the way that the challenges are working. I think that that is really cool. I do like that we have a strong friend group in here. I am struggling a little bit with the fact that they're all supposed to be 13, yet none of them act like they're 13. They act at least 15 to 16. And I don't think that this would bother me so much if it did not make, like, it doesn't make any sense as to why they're 13. It's like he picked a random number but then didn't know how to write a 13-year-old. And so I really wish that he had just aged them up on the get-go, and I don't think that that would be as big of a deal. Like, it's not a huge problem. It's not you really taking away my enjoyment or anything like that, but it is slightly annoying. I think my biggest problem with this is that I just feel very disconnected from everything. I feel like even though the combat codes are cool, and even though I'm really liking the challenges and the fight sequences and all of that is really interesting, as a general rule, there's not a whole lot going on in this book. Like, there's not a lot of plot to it. It all feels very setup-ish, but also just kind of like we're hitting points all at the same time. I just don't feel like there is a goal that we're trying to achieve, really, other than, I guess, him getting through the academy. I'm struggling with the fact that we're not getting a lot of whys. It's kind of glossed over why they do this, but I just wish that we had a lot more discussions on that, or I at least understood a little bit better as to why the combat codes even exist to begin with, because I think that that would be a really cool backstory to have. They like offhandedly mention that they are not allowed to do like their culture and things like that anymore, and I really feel like I would have liked that if we had just gotten a little bit more into it. And then I also feel like the characters are just kind of bland to me. They're not bad characters. I think that this book is well written and the characters are fine. I'm just not super connected to them, and so because the plot is okay, the world building is okay, the characters are okay, there's just not anything that's really gripping me and making me give this, like, want to pick it back up every 5 seconds. So I think this feels like a 3-star for me. It's generally good. I would recommend it. I will probably continue on in the sequels, but I'm having a hard time just wanting to pick it back up, if that makes sense. So I'm going to go back to work. I do have to do the sad work girl thing. I should just quit my job. I'm not going to yet, but I would love to. Anyway, yeah, it's a day. I have a headache and we're going to get through it. We are going to get through hump day no matter what. Like, I believe in us. So I will talk to you guys later tonight. Hopefully when I've read some more of Combat Codes, I'll definitely be listening to it on the way home. Speaking of listening though, I know I'm kind of all over the place, but I do like the audiobook. There are some of the voices that are a little hard to understand, and I sometimes am like, wait, what did you just say? But overall, I think that the audiobook is very well done and I would recommend it. Hello friends, hi. I actually filmed this clip already. I was in the car, but the audio is just kind of crappy, so we're gonna redo this again. I actually have 2 things to talk to you guys about. First one is I did finish the combat codes, and I really liked that second half. I actually think that that second half brought it up from like a mediocre 3-star to a low 4-star. I do think I'm gonna give it a low 4-star. In the beginning, I was really struggling with what were happening. There's a couple of things in particular, and I just wanted to know, okay, well, why is it this way? Or I really don't feel like it should be this way. I don't really want to tell you what, because I feel like that would be a spoiler, but I was struggling with a couple of different things, especially the why they do what they do, but there were a few of other instances, and I do feel like the latter half really gave me a lot of answers to that. I kind of wish some of them had come a little bit earlier, but at the same time, there was a lot of reveals at the end, which this is not a book that I expected to have reveals in, so I did appreciate that, but it did take a while for me to get there. The second half was the school setting, and in that point we really started to see a lot more of the relationships between the characters, Seago and all of his friends, and how they handled one another and how they talked to one another and their strategies, and I just really liked that a lot more from a character standpoint. I thought that that really helped me understand them better, because again, that was something that I was struggling with, was the character work. And then we finally got some plot, so I actually know where the plot is going to be headed, the direction that it's going to go in for the second book, and that makes me very excited to read the second book. I was not really sure how it was gonna go and what direction it was gonna take, but now that I finished it, I finally understand, and I did quite like that. So in the end, I think that I'm going to give this one, like I said, a 4-star. If you're the type of reader that likes a fast-paced, action-packed type story, I think this one's gonna work for you from the very beginning. But if you're somebody that's like me and you want to understand, or you want to see the plot or have a little bit more character development, then I would give this at least until about halfway before you fully decide to put it down, as long as you're enjoying the writing and enjoying the narrative as a whole. Because even though I was a little bit bored in the beginning, I was kind of struggling with not having some of the things that I wanted from it, I still liked it well enough to continue, and I'm very glad that I did, because I would recommend this book to most readers. I think it just took it a little while to get there, and I don't know if that's because I think the original book was actually shorter and they added some stuff in and kind of changed some stuff when it got republished into the traditional published version. So I'm not sure if that's where some of the disconnect came from, if it was always that way, but regardless, I am glad that I pushed through, because I think that the ending was definitely worth the read, and I will be continuing on into the next book in the series. And so that leads me into what I'm reading next. I did not really have a super set TBR this week. Like, I had a general idea, and you guys knew that I wanted to do the bonding prompts, but I didn't have anything that I had to read. Therefore, my books have changed a couple of times in what I've decided to read. So I think that I am going to change out my prominent relationship prompt, the Black Dragon prompt, for None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. This is a mystery thriller that primarily focuses on 2 women that are birthday twins, meaning they were born on the same day. They're both turning 45 on the same and share the same birthday. And one of them is a podcaster, and the other one is just got something going on in her life. I do think that this book is going to focus a lot on the relationship between those 2 women and the relationship in their lives and the things that they are dealing with in their lives. So I think that that will count for the prompt. I've actually already started this, and I'm about 15% of the way through. I'm listening to this on audiobook, and if you are somebody that likes a podcast element, I would highly recommend the audiobook. It is full cast, and it's got like little snippets that sound like podcasts, and I really like that part of the story. I do wish that there were different narrators though for Josie and Alex, because I don't really understand why they're the same narrator as of right now when the rest of the audiobook is full cast. That seems a little bit weird to me. But other than that, I am quite enjoying it. I'm very confused. I have no idea what's going on, but it's in a I'm intrigued confused way, not an I'm frustrated confused way. So I'm excited to continue, and once I am a little further in, I will let you know. I don't really want to give you a whole lot more of a synopsis than that, because I have no idea what's going to be spoilery and what's not. So I'm just going to kind of leave it at that basic synopsis. And I think that that's everything for today. I started at my new location today, so I did have to get up a little bit early, and we were pretty busy, but overall it was a really good day, and it was so nice to have a 20-minute drive to work instead of an hour drive to work. However, that did really cut into my audiobook listening time, which could be a problem. But yeah, I think that that's all I have for you guys right now. I am probably going to actually read Among Thieves next. I think this is going to be my mystery book for the Blue Dragons, because it says on the front, electrifying, a fast-paced mystery. Fantasy fans won't want to miss this. So I think that this is going to count as a mystery, and I don't have the physical copy for None of This Is True, so I did want to be able to read something with my eyeballs today. Anyway, I've rambled enough. I will talk to you guys in a bit. So I'm off work a little bit early, and I decided to come to Barnes & Noble because why not? And it is a glorious temperature this afternoon. It's only like, I don't know, 75 degrees outside. It feels like fall. It's brisk. It's not humid. I'm so excited. So I think I'm going to get a pumpkin spice cream cold brew, or whatever you call those, while I'm here today, if they have it, and just embrace the fall vibes. I don't know what I'm gonna get. I'm just kind of looking to see if they have a couple of things that have been on my radar, if they've got anything out early. May not get anything, but I figured why not just pop over while I was in the area. So the book shopping was a bit of a bust, unfortunately, because I was gonna get the new Lisa Jewell, but as the more I read, we'll talk about this later, I'm just not sure that it's one that I need to own. And then I was talking to Lexi about picking up The Quiet Tenant, and she's like, I'm just really unsure about whether or not you're gonna like it or not. So I decided not to pick up anything while I was in there, but I did get a pumpkin spice cold brew, got it ordered upside down, which is basically where the cold foam is on the bottom, so it mixes in a little bit better. And It's good. I'm not usually a huge pumpkin fan, but I like these. I think these are good. Plus, upside down, it's just the way to go. So I'm gonna head home, finish up my book. I will let you guys know when I get there what my final thoughts are, but as you can tell, wasn't going as well as it was when we talked originally. Hey guys, so I am finally home from work. It was a very long week, but we have come to the weekend. And by coming to the weekend, we're also coming up on the end of week one. You're probably going, Mel, you've only talked about 3 books so far. You're correct. I'm running behind. I still desperately need to finish at least 1 book for this vlog, and I'm going to talk to you guys about the Black Team Prompt book in just a second, but I still really need to complete the Blue Team Prompt. So if you don't see me for a lot more today, that is why, because I am busy doing the reading, but I will get it done. So you guys are seeing this on Sunday and hopefully have stuck around long enough to see where your team has ended up at the end of week 1, but that's coming. First, let's talk about None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. I updated you guys kind of at the very beginning with my thoughts, and then I disappeared. Honestly, I have been listening to this book all day while I was in between patients at work because I knew that I really needed to get it done. It's super easy to just pop in, do some things, follow along. I did enjoy this book. It's following Alex, who is a podcaster, and she's kind of in a rut with her current podcast and wants to do something different. She meets her birthday twin named Josie. They were born on the same day at the same hospital when she's out for birthday drinks, and Josie pitches this idea to her that what if she did a podcast episode about a woman that is trying to make a big change in her life while undergoing that change, so kind of following along. Well, of course, that's not what the podcast turns out to be, and things go very, very, very awry. I think that this book did a lot of things really well. I think that it was very well written. I do think that it was well plotted. This is a mystery thriller, but I do feel like you will probably understand what the mystery element is about halfway through the book, and then the rest is just all of that playing out, which is fine for me. I don't mind that as long as, again, it's well plotted. It's not something that just like shoots out of nowhere and makes absolutely no sense. This book didn't really do that. Lisa Jewell is much more of like a slow mystery author than a shocking thriller author, in my opinion. I found this beginning of this book to be really intriguing. I knew that something was not right, but I couldn't really figure out what it was. And while I was not necessarily thrilled, I was very intrigued by what was going on and who was not telling the truth, what was amiss, and I liked getting through the first half of that book, figuring this out. But once we hit about the halfway point, it did start to lose me a little bit. I still, like I said, think that it was well written, but I did start to struggle some with the pacing of the story. It really seemed to fall off in pacing until about the last quarter of the book, in which case the pacing picked back up again as we were getting reveals and things started to happen. Again, I feel like that's pretty common in a mystery thriller. Like, I don't feel like the middle is usually the point where you're the most intrigued, but it is worth mentioning that it did fall off my intrigue a little bit. And I liked the ending. I thought, again, that it was well done. I just think that I've read this story a lot before. This is not something that shocked me. It's not something that was like super new and innovative and this cool twist. Like, I knew where this was going. I knew why we had, like, what the motives were behind it. I've read it before, but that doesn't make it bad. It just makes it not a 5-star. So I think that this one's probably going to end up 3 from me, like a middle to high 3. It was a solid mystery, but it wasn't necessarily a new favorite of mine. And I feel like that's a lot of times where Lisa Jewell may land for me, even though I really, really enjoy her books and I have a good time reading them and I will want to pick up more. They're not the type of book that just keeps me on the edge of my seat till the last page and then I'm shocked and awed. Which is okay. Like, I didn't necessarily want to be shocked and awed from this book. I just wanted to enjoy my time, which I did, so it was successful. If you're the type of person that wants your mystery thrillers to be like, oh, then maybe this one won't be for you. But I do think that it was well done. And if you've liked Lisa Jewell's books in the past, I think that you will really enjoy this one. It's one of the more interesting and better written ones, in my opinion, that I've read from her. So I liked that. I think that was a win. I am now going to be moving on to Among Thieves, which, let me go grab that book really quick. So I can't find the book, but I can find the dust jacket. I'm going to be moving on to Among Thieves, which is the blue prompt for a mystery, because the Publisher Weekly thing literally says fast-paced mystery on the front, so we're counting it. This is one of those books that's been on my TBR for forever. I don't know how long I have had this, really since it came out, which again, I'm not sure when that was, but it's not one that has just grabbed me. It's not one that I've really just wanted to pick up. When I read the first chapter, I was mostly intrigued. It was short and I was like, you know what? Now is as good of a time as any for me to pick this book up and decide whether or not it's something that I'm going to enjoy and want to continue, or whether I just want to unhaul it. And I did like the first chapter. I liked the setup and the grunge and the talking about the adept and kind of what that was going to entail. This book is following a crime syndicate and all of the different members in that crime syndicate, and I believe they are going to be looking for something that is going to allow them to control the adept. The adept are people with magical abilities that the guildmaster can sense from birth if they're going to have magical abilities, and he whisks them away. They get branded by people's blood, and they are basically slaves and just required to do whatever the person that branded them tells them to do. And there's a bunch of different versions, like kinetics that can move things around, sensors that can sense things, and we're kind of learning about that in this world. I think that the world is cool. I think that the setup is interesting. I'm curious to see how the mystery plays in. I think my biggest issue with this right now is just that we have a bunch of different points of view chapters. I think in the first 70 pages we've had 5 or 6, and lots of points of views don't really bother me, but I feel like usually different points of views are used to give you different angles to things or different like parts of the world in a fantasy book. But all of these characters are together and together a lot and having conversations together. And so I don't feel like I'm really getting different sides of things. And I'm also not set in a different point of the world. And so I'm like, okay, what is the point here? I do think we're going to have slightly different variances in their backstories. But again, I feel like you could tell that with 2 or 3, maybe 4 points of view, but you definitely don't need 5+ points of view to accomplish that. And I think that that's going to bog down the story a little bit and keep me from really connecting with it, because it's not spending a lot of time with each individual character. But we'll see. I could be wrong there. I'm only about 70 pages in, so that's just very initial first impressions. But yeah, I've got a lot of reading to do before tomorrow, so I have been talking for what my camera says is 8 minutes. I need to shut up, and I will talk to you guys in a bit after I have joined sprints, hopefully with Jade, and read a little bit more of Among Thieves. Hello friends, it is quite a bit later in the evening. We have been doing sprints. They have been completely chaotic, as is per usual. I feel like with us on sprints, where Lexi's power went out, then I couldn't get my YouTube to work. It's just been a time. But in the midst of all of that, I have managed to finish Among Thieves by MJ Kuhn, and sadly this one was not a win for me. It will still be getting the same amount of points for the blue team because all we're doing is the bonding prompt for this week. This one will get bonus points because it is a new to me author, so they will be getting 20 points for this one, and that's good that I read it this week because it was a 2-star. I'm very apathetic toward this book as a whole. I don't think there was anything inherently wrong with it, but I was very, very bored. For most of the story, I wanted more about the magic and the crime syndicate in this world, and instead they kind of went off on a tangent of finding this device thing that would let someone basically be able to control the adept, but they didn't really give me enough information on like the island, and it just focus was in weird spots. I stand by my complaint that there were too many points of view, and so I never really got to get to know anybody. We were told time and time again that Rain had this really dark past, but we never really got to see any of that, and so I just didn't care. Nothing really grounded me in this novel, and I think that it will work for some people, especially if you're just looking for something quick and easy and fun, but it just did not have enough to grip me personally, and so was not a win. So that's really, I think, all I have to say about this one. I don't want to harp on it because I'm just generally like, it was fine. I don't have a lot to say. So that is a wrap on all of the bonding prompts for week 1. I cannot believe that we are literally 3 hours as of right now away from going into week 2 for Battleathon. It's absolutely insane. I'm going to get a little sappy really quick, but I just so much so appreciate all of you guys for participating and supporting my channel. It's been absolutely incredible, and I I cannot thank you enough. And my co-hosts that are fabulous. You guys are rock stars and I just appreciate you. So that's all I'm going to say for tonight. I will talk to you guys in the morning and you will get standings on who is in what place for week 1. Remember that week 1 is combined with week 2 and that will give you your placement in the bracket. So really week 1 standings are just kind of an update. That's nothing official. It's not going to put you in an exact place, but it'll kind of give you guys an idea of where you're at and what you need to strive for moving into week 2. So stay tuned for that. Flipping over to Future Mel, who's going to give you those standings because I need to wait until midnight tonight before I actually look at those points. Good morning, everyone. It is the end of the vlog. It is the start of week 2 and the end of week 1 for Battleathon, and what a week that it was. I did successfully bond with all of the dragons, and so I am now a golden dragon for the rest of the readathon. Very excited about that. And I am going to be the keeper of the games, the keeper of the battles, and I am here to tell you guys the standings coming out of week 1 going into week 2. Now, I think I said this last night, but remember the standings for week 1 don't really have a lot of play. They are cumulative, so it will be combined with week 2, but this is just kind of a where you're at right now. It doesn't actually solidify your standing in the bracket until week 2, so just kind of remember that. So we are averaging points per person so that the biggest team doesn't like dominate in points and the smallest team have struggled to keep up because there is a decent bit of discrepancy between the biggest and the smallest teams. So with that being said, in a shocking turn of events, red team is currently in the first standing, then followed by blue in second place, black in third place, and green bringing up fourth place. I will tell you that the first and second places are relatively close. There's a pretty decent gap between third and fourth, and then third and fourth place are also decently close. So keep that in mind going into week 2. I hope that you have an amazing week full of 4 and 5 star reads to get you all of those points. In honor of red team being in the first place, leave me a red emoji of some kind down in the comments below. If you're still wanting to sign up for Battleathon and you haven't yet been able to do that, you're wanting to know more information, all of the information, including the announcement video, is also down in the description box below. As always, links to my Patreon, Instagram, Twitter, and Goodreads are down there as well. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!